Okay. Action. This is me talking about everything I love and hate about my short film, which this is going to take a while. So on my little website blog thing I have going for college, there will also be it will be transcribed next to it. So I will edit that transcribe as well to make everything more clear, more definitive. So you don't technically have to watch this video, but I would appreciate it because I didn't put much work into this. I got a funky outfit though, so. Okay, to start off, the title screen. I worked so hard for this, manually putting each letter where I typed. This is an old computer, counts as vintage, that we got from my grandma, because I had a theme going where when you saw humans, they were typically in red clothing or surrounded by red, versus the aliens that were typically blue, greens, to create a divide and make it easier to tell which one was which. So it starts off red computer to show the hostility of the world that these characters are living in, and like the computer aspect, the reason somebody is manually typing out the title is because I wanted to catch the effect of people always going to social media first. I'm not sure if that really got across with the title screen, but I like it anyway. It was supposed to show a sense of we're always going to the internet first before we go to our friends in person. It's like we're less afraid to share opinions on the internet than we are in person for a fear of being judged. Because if you get judged on the internet, those people don't actually know you. So if you say something wrong, it's less scary. Then if my computer will load. Those are my hands. I did the typing. And then the first person we see, that is Katie. She is a lovely actress. She's my friend from college because my actor dropped out last minute. And I was originally planning to use professional actors, however, apparently I didn't set a clear enough image of what the project was going to be, so he quit last minute. So I ended up using Katie, which I love Katie, she's a great actress. She has a beautiful voice. So she is the main alien, or the adult alien, as my Film Freeway account says. I did put a lot more makeup on than ended up showing in camera, as there was a lot of glitter involved, but it ended up not being very clear on camera, even though I had tested it previously. But the overall image still stayed, so I was very happy with this footage. And it was tinted slightly blue, so her hair gave off a slightly green tint, and this footage is almost exactly what I wanted in my head, like what I was planning, and I was very happy with this. There are some slight things I would change, like I wish the glitter was more prevalent throughout it, and there are multiple points, because Katie is not a professional actor, she was just who I had available. We had to have the script down in front of her on a table so that she could read it, as it was a lot of lines and she knew she would not be able to memorize it all. So there are multiple spots throughout the film where she glances down to look at the sheet, but instead of trying to get her to memorize everything, I figured that it actually worked better in my favor, as it is a bit unprofessional, but it gives the idea that this is somebody giving a professional speech, sort of like when people are standing on a podium talking and they have the sheets of paper in front of them. And this was supposed to be a very political message. So I ended up deciding that I actually quite liked the fact that she was looking down. I wish it had been a bit less, as she does look down quite a lot. But I liked it in the end anyway. And she says the script, which I don't love the actual dialogue too much, but I didn't know how to improve it, so it ended up being what I went with. The next shot we see is my amazing little brother, Theodore, named after the chipmunk. He loves being involved in my films, and I promised I'd at least have him in for a cameo, so he plays the child alien, as I wanted to show how this hostility was not only aimed at adults that were coming down to Earth, because when it's adults, it's easier to be like, well, they should have known. They're smart enough. They have experience in the world. But when it's a child, it's easier to see their point of view of the fear that they must be feeling, because they don't know much about the world yet. They're young, they're still learning. So I wanted to have a child shown throughout, and the easiest way to get a child in a film is to use a child you're related to. So I used my brother. In this shot, however, it's a close-up of the eye, because I wanted to show that it's like the aliens and the humans have similarities, but most of the makeup was around the eye, so it was showing how similar these two species are, but also how different. And I was very proud that the glitter actually showed up in this shot. And the shot was originally just going to be an eye looking at the camera, but I ended up changing it so that he looks up as if to talk to a higher being, like when you look up to pray to God for something, or look up to somebody for guidance, like you look up at teachers when they stand next to your desk because you need help. You look up to your parents when you're young and they're taller than you, but it's looking for advice about something. And I added an effect to it. The original footage, it was in focus, but since it was a close-up, it was the details weren't as detailed as I wanted them to be, as the camera ended up focusing more on his eyelashes than his actual eye. So to get around this, I added an effect. It's called a radial blur, and it blurs everything from a middle point outwards. So it adds, again, the otherworldly, not quite as real. And obviously I color graded that, so the eye does appear slightly blue, but it ended up being what I wanted. Again, highlighting the differences and similarities. And then it switches to glowing lights of cars passing, but all you see are blurs with the lights. I didn't get this footage because I didn't know how I would do that with the timescale I did have. I got this off of a copyright-free website, and that was just to highlight it's the beginning of a couple of clips that I chose to specifically show humans in a good light, like what we have achieved. So we've got the glowing lights of cars driving, and then it switches to, again, that's me playing the violin, and then funfair footage, and then a lovely clip I got on an old camera to create a more real sense of my sister holding up the dog, to show like the human joy that we have, how happy we can be as a species of animal, what we have achieved with the funfair as well. It was to create a sense of happiness, even though the words later on in the film will be about how we use that happiness to ignore other things. So there's also sound effects behind every clip that are almost loud enough to drown out the words of the alien. It's like we want to see the happiness and ignore everything that the alien is, because they are other and they are different. And then after all those happy clips, it switches back to her and she looks up before fireworks, and then there is a clip with a breaking news sign that I made on a website, and I wasn't sure how to do this because originally I was a bit confused about whether I wanted to do it as a YouTuber talking about it, as that relates more with the younger audience, or just the news to show how this was a real thing happening in this world. And I ended up going with the news, which I didn't figure out a video to put behind the news by the time this deadline was approaching rapidly. So I got on a copyright-free website and I got a picture of the Earth from above with a bunch of meteorites, as it shows like this isn't the normal everyday thing that happens. And yeah, it didn't end up looking exactly how I wanted, and the sound effect I put in the background was a lot louder once I exported it, but I don't have the technology at home to export it again, so that was the end all. That was what I had to choose. And the music I got was copyright free. And then it fades back before showing, that's my Twitter account. It shows somebody and they are on Twitter talking about, and it says the aliens are, which I couldn't figure out how to get Grammarly to not show up, so it's telling me that my grammar is incorrect. But yeah, it's just what are they going to type after the aliens are? Is it going to be happy? Is it going to be sad? What are these people's opinions? And then it shows me with this duvet. This is my blanket, my man, because it's red. I specifically chose this because it's red and it matched the sofa, and I got a red hoodie on and I got a red computer, because this is a human. They are aggressive. They are angry. They do not like these aliens. And the way I got this footage, like all of the red, it's creating an idea of who this human is before we even see what they're actually typing. And then we go back to see what they were actually typing, and it ends up being a hateful message about how the aliens are killing the world, which there's a typo in there that I fixed. But and then so for when the character clicks the post button, you can see it slightly, but that post is not the original post that I had the alien type out, because I personally did not want to try and spread anything even slightly hateful on Twitter, because it's bad enough. And I didn't want that on my account, because that can very easily be taken the wrong way, as there are many different types of ways that the words "the aliens are killing our world" can be taken out of context and make me on Twitter seem like I am in a certain group of hateful people that I didn't want to be associated with. So I knew I was going to zoom in quite close on the post button to really emphasize that this person's decision is final. Once they've put that out in the world, they can't fix it. Even if only 10 people see their post, they have done that. They have spread this hate to other people. And so I knew I was going to zoom in. So what I did was I made a post for something that I thought was quite funny, which is a screenshot of one of the clips I had already taken and me color grading it. And I put the words, "color grading is gonna kill me." And then I posted that instead, which I soon deleted it anyway because I never use Twitter and I don't want to post anything that could later be taken out of context, even if it seems like it's really innocent. Like, who's going to have an issue with me color grading? But there is a lot of ways in which my internet presence, I try and closely monitor everything I post because I don't want to accidentally say something that offends somebody. So I deleted it almost straight after. But all I really needed was that shot of clicking the post button. And I have a setting on my computer which I don't know how I did or when I did it, but when you click something, a circle appears. So it shows exactly where you're clicking, which I loved that. It really helped me emphasize their pressing post. So I didn't have to go and find another computer that worked, because that red one I was using earlier did not work. So everything I shot on that was done on this computer, but everything I typed, you could see me clicking, was done on the red computer. I wanted to see if I could change the color of that clicking thing to red, but I could not find the setting to save my life. Sometimes I go on these sprees where I randomly mess with the settings of my computers, and that's when I did that, and I could not find that setting again. So it ended up not being very useful, but the pink, it didn't really affect much, or the purple, I guess. It wasn't too much of a concrete detail, so I ended up just going with it and not trying to mess with it too much. And then there's a few more seconds, then my brother's back, which this was shot in my actual old high school, which I never had this classroom because they've switched all the classrooms around, but this is a French classroom, which there's been a lot of discrimination against the French. If you know, you know. That wasn't actually why I chose the classroom, it was just the only classroom they'd let me use. And I filmed it after school hours, which you can probably see by the clock in the background. I wasn't paying attention to the fact there was a clock, and I wasn't told that I couldn't remove anything off the walls, but I was scared, so I didn't. And the shot has these lines that go across the screen, which is created because I had the frame rate way too high, and the bulbs were putting out light at the same frame rate, which you may go, that's stupid, why didn't you just change the settings? I did it on purpose. I'm so proud of myself for that. No, I did it because it, to me, was to show the cage, the invisible cage that these aliens, even the children, are being put in, and how it may not seem like it's real because we can't see it, but it is, and they are constantly aware of it. And the fact that they are stuck and there's no really way to change that. And then originally I was gonna have somebody like throw a piece of paper or like shove, but I didn't have another person and I wasn't really wearing the clothes and I'm also not really young enough to be put in this situation. So it ended up just being this shot. And then when it loads, and then after that is a shot of a bin. It is an IKEA bin. It's white and it's got like a stair sort of situation going up it. None of that's relevant. I just needed an empty white bin. That bin has never been used. So I was like, okay, that's what I need. Originally I was going to use a see-through container, but then I was like, oh, you'll be able to see the floor, so I just used the white bin. And I put it in my shower, and I got the shower head, and I filled it with water. And I was like, okay. So I put it down, and I sat, and I got my camera, and it was just me sitting in my bathroom on the floor with a bucket of water. And I got some fake blood, and I slowly dropped it in, because I wanted to show the water in this metaphor that is a bucket was to show the false sense of purity that the humans have when it comes to the aliens. They're like, we are a pure society, we don't want to let you in because you will infect us with your difference. It was kind of drawing on from Harry Potter. There's that whole idea that if your parents aren't wizards, then you're not pure, which is what these humans are thinking about the aliens. It's, if the aliens were to ever reproduce with humans, those humans would not be pure. So when the blood gets dropped in the water, it's like that is the blood infecting the world. However, you can see, if you look closely, before the water was even dropped, there are slight specks of dirt and dog hair, and like the water is not completely clean. There is already things infecting it. So it's like these humans have a false sense of purity. There's actually no evidence to say that the aliens and the humans don't have any blood in common. So the humans are all like, we can't have you in our world because we can't accept you as you are because you're different from us. But they're not actually that different. We just want to see them as different. And the blood in the end ends up spreading, and it's like, once it's there, we can't get rid of it. So on the other end of the metaphor, it's the water is the lack of violence we see in ourselves, and the small pieces of dirt are the violence that's already there, but we don't acknowledge it because it's not big enough. But then the aliens come, and the blood is the violence and the hate that spreads out as the blood dilutes. And that shows how, even with our false sense of superiority in the fact that we don't hate, we do. And the blood just keeps spreading, and once it is in the water, there's no way to stop it. And throughout these clips, because it shows the blood in one drop, and then it shows the child alien's face close up in the school, and how they don't look sad, but they don't look happy. And then it shows more of the blood and more of it dropping as time just goes on, and it starts to infect the rest of the water, and the hatred just spreads from one person to another. And then after that, there is a picture, a clip of the child alien with their nose bleeding and it's spread across their face, and now they look a bit scared, and that is showing how, no matter how much we ignore it, this is happening. And it also, if you don't want to look at this as with a metaphorical sense, that blood dripping into the water is coming from the aliens as they are being hurt and banished from our society and isolated. Their blood is dripping and they have nowhere they can go to save themselves. And then one last clip of the blood as it just sits there. And then we're back to my friend Katie. Now this shot was originally supposed to be in a little group of shots about painters, and there was going to be, the colour of the paint was actually a coincidence. Originally it was going to be blue, but then I went, no, I'll do pink, which this clip I edited so heavily, it's not pink anymore, it's red. As now I used it to represent the blood that we are painting across the lens. We are using the violence and the hatred that we have sown into our very beings to cover up people's eyes so they can't actually see what's happening. We are using the blood that has already been spilled to create a false sense of security in the fact that no more will be spilled. And I was trying to, at this point, I was using it to try and create a sense of putting a blindfold over your eyes so that you don't have to see what's wrong with the world. But instead this character is painting over the lens of other people so that they can't see what's happening. And then after that, which this clip is quite long because I wanted to show this, like, it takes a while to truly cover up other people's eyes. And then we have, again, my brother in the school setting looking at the camera. It's like they're looking at other people to try and get help or figure out what's happening, why this is happening to them. But also it creates a sense of this alien being young. They're looking to people for help, advice. They're just looking to other people. And that is not something that a lot of adults will do, is willingly look to other people for help. But it's something that children are taught to do. So it helped show how young this alien was. And then back to Katie. It kept switching back to Katie as a way to show that in the end, it will always go back to the people that are hurt. Like, no matter how much you twist the narrative, they will always be the victims. Even if other people decide that you are the victim, the person that was hurt will always know, at least. And then this is just a little thing, because I was like, I wonder if that would look good. And it is somebody typing out fear on the computer. And it was really just to emphasize how much the humans wanted a reason to hate the aliens. And so they chose that reason to be because they decided that they should be afraid of them. And then the computer's a bit shaky because it was sitting on my knee because I didn't have a table that was tall enough at the time. And then this is me on my YouTube, and it says, I explain everything wrong with these aliens in 20 minutes. To show, like, you know something's bad when people start making YouTube analysis videos about it. which that video isn't real. That's one of my old films, which you can see by the file name. It says Hyperphantasia, which is the name of one of my old films. And this was a bit... This video was a bit of a last minute idea because I had forgotten that I needed to do it. So you can still see all of my like favorited things. I haven't removed Hurdle yet. My Google Docs, floor planner, like Pixabay sound effects, like all of these things are still favorited. You can still see my logo, my YouTube channel's logo. You can see my Shmeji. Like all of these things I didn't really have the thought process to remove, but I just needed the clip. So if I had the chance, I would redo that and change it. I would also move my mouse out of the way of the words because you can't really read it. It's more of a you can infer what it was supposed to say. And then there's a longer wait on what Katie's face is doing there, because what I was originally about to show was it was going to really emphasize how we as a people haven't done good. It's not as bad in... I have two versions. I have the YouTube version and the original version. The YouTube version is a lot more child friendly, and the what's it called? The original version is that there's dead bodies in it. There's dead bodies, and there's violence, and there's shooting, and there's tanks, and it's a lot meaner. But this version just had... it's a bunch of clips from throughout history with protests, war, a bit about the old Native American schools, clips from concentration camps, clips from mass graves, clips from bombed houses, clips of piles of bones. It was just to show how no matter how much we want to cover it up, this is our history. We have done these things in the past. And it may not have been us personally. Like, I have never done any of these things, but they have been done by our species. So we can't ignore the fact that we as a people hate, and we control, and we argue, and we are mean, and we do things that we never want to think about again. But we have done them. Our governments have done them. Our governments have bombed people. Our governments have destroyed lives. Our governments have killed children. And we don't want to think about it. We ignore the news when it tells us about Gaza. We ignore the news when it tells us about what's happening in America. But it is happening. And we need to start acknowledging it before it gets too much and we become the next horror story that you hear about in history for the next generation to ignore. It's history repeating itself. There is a certain amount of ignorance you can have before it is willful. There is a certain amount of incompetence you can have before you are doing it on purpose. There is a certain amount of things you can do to help the world, but we choose not to because it is not our responsibility, we tell ourselves. There are people with more power, there are people with more money, they can do it instead. But that is the issue. The people in power aren't going to do anything because they are the ones causing it. The people with the money don't want to help it because they are the ones earning money from what is happening. We cannot ignore everything, and we have to think about things logically. If aliens were to ever appear before us, it would not be a case of E.T. I've never seen that movie. It would not be a case of us accepting them and listening to their advice. It would be a case of us putting regulations. It would be a case of us finding every way we can use them before they have nothing left. Because that is what we do. We as a species thrive off of greed. That is what we do. And that is what I was trying to present in this film. But in the end, I don't think the message got along as much as I wanted it to, but I'm happy with what I tried to do. The next clip is the alien. She opens a book and it lights up red. This is because the humans perceive all of the information they could give them as dangerous, as horrifying, as something that will tear down society if the whole of humankind learn it. But it's a warning beacon to them. But then the light turns off because the humans are not allowing the aliens to attempt to even help them. They are going, no, your knowledge is too much for us. And they turn it off. They say no. And then the alien looks up from the book and she looks at the camera, and that is solidifying her resolve. She is truly saying, look at what you have done. She is acknowledging that the people she is being hurt by would be watching if this was a documentary in her world. And then the camera becomes closer to her face to emphasize the ending, because the ending was what I really wanted to show. And we're back to the bucket of water, but this time the whole of it is red. All the water is red because the violence and the hatred has truly spread to the whole of society. It is, even if you think you are unaffected, it is truly affecting everybody. The hatred, the violence we are spreading, the discrimination, every person in the world will be affected by it at some point. And this person, which is me, played by me, is got bright red palms covered in blood, but there is more on their hands anyway, and they put their hands in the already stained water to try and wash off what is on their hands, and they pull their hands out and they are still blood red, because there is a certain amount of times you can clean your hands in the same water before it will not affect anything, before your hands will come out the same colour they went in, because you cannot forever ignore the blood on your hands. Even if it is just that one time you punched a kid and they had a nosebleed and you got it on your skin, that blood will forever, it will be with you. You will have gone to therapy, you will have taken care of your anger issues, and that moment will have been the cause. You will realize that you like how much it feels to punch someone, and you will do it again, and that moment has stained you forever. Even simple things like falling over, getting hurt, those moments affect you, even if you don't remember them. These moments in your life affect you, and sometimes they will affect society, because they will affect who you are, and then you will affect society. Even if it's just a tiny amount, a drop of water in the bucket still creates a ripple that will go out and come back, because that is what is happening. And the blood just does not come off this person's hands. They are stuck with it for the rest of their life. But they have given up. They are like, you know what? I will leave. And then it's back to Katie. And she is telling the person how they really thought that humanity would be good from what they'd seen. And then ends arguably the best decision I've ever made. It was originally going to end with the sound of a gavel, as if this person was on trial and had been found guilty. or innocent, depending on what you assume. However, I decided to end it with the sound of the click and the shake of the camera stopping, as that really creates the effect that this alien knows she has been talking to a camera the whole time. She is aware of the fact that her words will reach someone, will be seen, because that's what she wants. She wants the world to see her because she is used to being ignored. She is used to people not wanting to be in her presence. And then we go into the credits, which were very last minute. I just wanted everybody to know who everybody is because I love the actors. They were Katie and Theo were they're the best actors I've ever worked with. And obviously myself. I'm the true star of this show. Yeah, there was a lot that went wrong in my film, but there's a lot that went right as well. So I don't regret it. I don't particularly love the film, and there's a lot of things I would change if I had the option. However, it's one of my favorite things I've ever made. So I'm not gonna decide that I hate it, but it's not gonna win any awards. Yeah, it's not gonna win any awards, but it was fun making, and I don't regret it.